Every restaurant is doing mac and cheese now. Everyone has a different idea. Chefs interpret it so differently. And to me, my conviction is, my personal belief is that mac and cheese is mac and cheese. It's elbow noodles, cheese, and a bechamel baked. And when you add things like lobsters or chilies or things like that, wonderful chef's interpretation, but for me, I go back to the classic. So I'm going to show you the classic today. First, you start with a roux. A roux is just simply butter, equal amounts of butter, weight of butter and flour. So, and you just melt the butter. Now we're going to turn the heat up just a slight amount. Get that butter good and hot, and see it's bubbling on the sides. Perfect. Now we're just going to tap in our flour, just for a little bit to get it started, then a little bit more. Adding it slowly, keeping it going, moving. You're going to turn that heat down a little bit. You don't want to get it, you don't want to char it at all. There is a method and technique of making roux with brown butter, but this, we want it to be creamy and sweet. Now, you stop right here. Why do you stop right here? Because there's two ways to make roux. You short cook it, and it won't taste like a floury, pasty thing, or you have to cook the flour taste out of it. It takes a couple hours, so we want to short cook it here. Now I'm going to ladle in just a little bit of roux into my mixture of. I've actually got 2½ cups, so I've got 1 ounce of flour, 1 ounce of butter, and this is just 2½ cups of milk. Now I've put a little bit of roux in there, and I'm going to add a little bit in here, slowly, and then we're going to add the rest. Now I've heated up the milk just a little bit. That way it won't clump out. Now there should be enough in there now. To make a beautiful, what's called a bechamel. It's one of the mother sauces. I don't know if you want to see that texture, but once it gets to that point, nice and creamy, now I can add the rest of the milk, no problem. Milk's heated. That will not clump. It will actually turn into a wonderful thick bechamel. Now I'm keeping this moving. A nice fine whisk, just like this. You don't want to get it too. There we go. So that's your base. I'm going to get that into a slight boil. There we go. Now while that's rolling away and starting to thicken, turn that heat down just a little bit. I'm going to move over here and we're going to grate some cheese. What I've done here is I've already taken our elbow macaroni and taken it to al dente, so it still has a little bit of punch, so what would be considered slightly undercooked. That's okay, because this is going to bake again once we finish it, once we get the mixture done. Keep an eye on what's going on back there. You do not want to char it or score it. So I'm just going to take cheese. I like a very, very sharp, hard Vermont cheddar. You can use other kinds of cheeses if you want, but to me the best is just just using different grades of cheddar cheese, from mild to sharp. You can use a little bit of Jack too. Now I like it. I don't like the orange cheese, so I'm going to use this. Now you can see this is boiling, and you can see it's thickening. That's a bechamel, okay? Now we're going to add our cheese to it. We're going to melt that through. We don't want to scorch this. Get that heat kind of high right there. As you can see, the cheese is melting through. It's a wonderful mixture, just making a nice batter. So this is essentially the base. I'm going to add a little teeny bit of, about a ½ teaspoon of salt. Now at this point, if you want to get creative, this is where you throw in your lobster, or you throw in your green chilies, or porcini mushrooms, or whatever it is you like to do in your mac and cheese. But this is kind of where I stop it right there. There is a couple things you can add some. Again, the sharpness of the cheese is super important, so taste it. It should be one of those things where it's like, ooh, wow, kind of intense. If you want to add a little aged Gouda to it, it kind of adds a little element of nuttiness and also sharpness. I like to do that. But also, I use a little bit of Parmesan or Asiago cheese. That will bring a lot of sharpness to it. And I'm going to save the rest of this for the top because I want a nice crust on the top. All right, so that is done. Now we're going to add, this is a ½ pound of cooked elbow macaroni. ½ pound dry, that is. There we go. Now we have our base for mac and cheese. Ooey gooey, yummy, yummy. Now the macaroni is not fully cooked, so it is going to soak up some of the liquid here, which is what we want as it bakes. Simple as that. Boom, boom, boom. We have our base. Now all we have to do is figure out how we're going to bake this. Now for me, I'm just going to use a casserole like this, a Pyrex casserole. And I'm going to get all that gooey yumminess right in here. Now, that's ready to go. From this point on, this can be refrigerated for a couple of days or frozen for a couple of weeks, and then just brought up to temperature and then baked off in an oven. So we'll take the oven at about 350 degrees, and we're going to do this for a good 40 minutes. Now that sounds like a lot, but I like it kind of deeply baked and with a crust on top. All right, so now I'm grinding up on a box grater. Now you can use a microplane, but I know everyone has a box grater at home, so this will work just fine. And you know, I'll probably get about 2 ounces of good Parmigiano Reggiano. You want it to be kind of sharp and a little nutty tasting. And that should do it. There we go. There's our little finely grated Parmesan cheese. A little bit of those house-made breadcrumbs. And then we're going to just bake that in the oven. And we'll see in a few minutes, this will be done. Hit the mitts. Here comes our mac and cheese. All right. Whoa! Oh yeah, look at that. Now, if you wanted to sprinkle a little bit more of those breadcrumbs and cheese around there and pop it under the broiler, that'd be just fine. But for me, I'm just going to take a little taste of the corner. Woo! Woo! Damn, that burns. Ow! There you go, mac and cheese.